answer some of your Bible questions. Thank you for getting the Bible questions in. As we say, we'll do our very best to give you a Bible answer to your Bible question. Now here's a question that has been asked, the Bible question. Regarding the Sabbath day changing, didn't the church change the Sabbath day? Good question. And the answer depends upon how you interpret the question. Did the church change the Sabbath day? Well, let's go all the way back to the beginning. We'll go all the way back to the beginning of the Bible, to Genesis chapter 2. And here's what we read. We read in Genesis chapter 2, "Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day God ended his work which he had made. And he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made." That's Genesis chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. So God declared that the seventh day was the Sabbath. In Exodus chapter 20, you read the fourth commandment where God says, "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all of thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God." So God was clear. If you look at a calendar, you discover that that seventh day of the week was Saturday, or is Saturday, depending on which word you choose to use. But what happened down through time? God's people kept the seventh-day Sabbath. Isaiah kept the Sabbath. Nahum kept the Sabbath. Abraham kept the Sabbath. Malachi, seventh-day Sabbath. Now what about when we get down to the time of the early Christian church? Well, James and John and Peter and Andrew and Nathaniel, they were Sabbath keepers. Judas was a Sabbath keeper. Not that he's much of a recommendation for too much, but you understand, these people worshiped God on the day that God had set aside for worship. Jesus worshiped God on the seventh-day Sabbath, and he was the one who created the Sabbath. So what happened that we get down to a time today, and the vast majority of people who serve the God of heaven have little or nothing to do with the seventh-day Sabbath? How do we understand that? What happened? Well, here's what happened. Not long after Jesus died, well, let's say 100 or so years, a change slowly started occurring and developing. Jews were being persecuted, and Jews, you understand, kept the seventh-day Sabbath. Christians, after Jesus died, also kept and worshipped on and kept holy the seventh-day Sabbath. So some of these Christians started looking a whole lot like Jews in the eyes of the Roman persecutors. Now, there was an option, an unbiblical option, but there was an option. You see, the day that the pagans honored was the day of the sun. We call that Sunday today. That was the first day of the week. So some of these Christians decided that if they worshiped God on the first day of the week, they'd look a whole lot less like Jews, and they would endure a whole lot less persecution and hardship. But further on, you get down to the time of the Roman Emperor Constantine. The Roman Emperor Constantine decided that he wanted to bring his kingdom together. It was a kingdom made up of pagans and Christians. The Christians, the vast majority of them, kept the seventh day as the worship day. The pagans, the first day. Constantine became a Christian. Evidently, he was a bit of a nominal Christian, probably just a Christian so he could call himself a Christian, but he became a Christian. He had his armies, as a matter of fact, they marched them down here, down to the river, they marched through the river, came up the other side, he said, "You're Christians, you've been baptized." That was his version of Christianity. What would he do, though, when he became a Christian to appease the pagans? He wanted to unite his empire. So, while promoting Christianity, he opted to observe the pagan day as the worship day, the now Christian worship day. This is just a matter of history. So,